Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Have you ever thought about your 401k plan contribution? The good news is that regularly increasing your contribution is one of the easiest ways to build wealth. The bad news is that many people take a set it and forget it strategy with their contributions. In fact, according to a 2014 Pentegra survey, 19% of employees have never increased their retirement plan contribution. Let's get started today by talking about our goals. How much should we be saving? And where can we get that retirement income from? And then we'll take a look at what a big impact making small changes can have on our accounts over time. How much should I save? That's probably the number one question that most people ask when thinking about retirement. There are lots of varying answers, but most financial experts suggest that we should aim for an 80% income replacement ratio. So what does that mean? Well, think about your salary. Take 80% of that number, and that's the amount of money that we should try to bring in every year in retirement. Let's say I'm making $30,000 a year when I retire. To replace 80% of my income, I would need to generate $24,000 each year after I stop working. Keep in mind that 80% income replacement is just our starting point. You might need more if you think your living expenses will go up in retirement, or you might need less if you think your living expenses will be lower. When we're thinking about our living expenses, some things that we want to consider include savings rate. If we're saving a lot before we retire, then we're already used to living on less than our annual salary. Investment style is also something to think about. There's a relationship between risk and return when it comes to our investments. The more risk we're willing to take, the more return we might see. The less risk we want to take, the less potential for return we have. And also, once we retire, we probably don't want to take as much risk with our money as we did while we were still working. Inflation and medical costs are also key. And finally, life expectancy is one of the most important considerations. Based on Social Security Administration calculations, the average life expectancy for a man who is currently age 65 is 84.3 years. For a 65-year-old woman, the life expectancy is 86.6. And keep in mind that these are just averages. About 25% of today's 65-year-olds can expect to live until age 90. 1 in 10 will make it to age 95. We want to make sure we have enough money to last. So where will we get all this money from? For most of us, our 401k plans will be some of our biggest sources of retirement income. But there are other sources as well. Will you work part-time during your retirement? Do you have any personal savings outside of the plan? If you're married, don't forget to include your spouse's income as well. And finally, there's Social Security. The first thing you'll want to do, if you haven't already, is visit Social Security's website at www.ssa.gov and set up an account. It takes about 10 minutes, and then you'll have access to your Social Security estimates and statements anytime, right online. You can also find information on how the program works, how it's funded, and how benefits are calculated. Keep in mind that for most of us, Social Security alone won't be enough. One interesting fact about the program is that it uses something called an inverse income replacement ratio. That's a mouthful, but what that simply means is the more money you make, the less you receive in retirement as a percentage of your salary. So we can see here that someone making $20,000 a year during their career can expect to have 46% of their salary replaced in retirement. On the flip side, someone making $65,000 a year can only expect to see a 28% replacement of their salary. And that's why it's so important that we save in our retirement plans. So far, we know that we need to replace about 80% of our salaries in retirement. We also know we want to look at all of our income sources. But what do we do now? Well, it might help to pause this webinar and make a list. What assets do you have that you can use in retirement? Once you've listed your income sources, it then becomes easier to figure out how much you might need to fill in any gaps. So let's say that we've determined we need to use our 401k plan to replace 35% of our salary. How much would we need to save each year? The answer will depend on a couple of things: when we start saving and when we want to retire. But here are some guidelines. To retire at 65, a person who started saving at age 35 would need to put away, on average, 14% of salary each year. If this same person had started saving at age 25, they only would have needed to save 10% of salary. Let's use the same assumptions but change the retirement age to 70. The person who started saving at age 35 would need to contribute 6% per year, while starting at age 25 would require a 4% annual savings contribution. The key here is we want to start saving early and saving consistently. And don't feel discouraged if you haven't started saving yet. There is no such thing as too late when it comes to saving. Anything you can put away, even if it's just a little bit, is better than nothing. But let's get real for a minute. The numbers we've looked at so far are really big, and it can be difficult to think about it, let alone save. But like we said, put away whatever you can today, and then make a commitment to yourself to increase your contribution over time. If you can increase your contribution rate by 1% per year, that'll go a long way towards increasing your nest egg. Think about it. If you can only put in, let's say, 3% right now, but if you increase that by 1% each year, in just 7 years, you'll be up to a 10% contribution, double digits. And that's not even taking into consideration any employer contributions, which can also have a really big impact on your savings. If your plan offers a match, make sure to contribute at least the amount needed to get that full employer contribution. It's free money. So let's look at 2 real-life examples. I call this the tale of 2 savers. Here we have Anne and Andy. They're both in the exact same situation. They're both 30. They're both making $30,000 a year, and they've just signed up for their 401k plan. They're both going to contribute 5%. The only difference is that Anne has made a commitment to herself to increase her contribution by 1% per year for the next 10 years. Andy leaves his contribution at 5%. So let's see what happened to them while they were saving. Both Anne and Andy are just getting started, so we have an opening account balance of 0. And this is important to remember. You've got to start somewhere, and most of us, unless we're very lucky, are starting at 0. But we grow from there. So in the first year, Anne puts away $1,500. As she increases her contribution amount, we see her account balance take off over time. It's growing exponentially, and by the time she's 40, she has almost $50,000 saved up. And 10 years after that, almost $200,000. This is really where we can see the power of compounding in action. By the time she reaches age 65, she has over $782,000 saved up just in her 401k. Now let's take a look at Andy's savings. He's also starting from scratch with a 0 balance and saving $1,500 in the first year. But that's where the similarities in the account balances end. We're using the same assumptions, but his savings doesn't grow nearly as quickly as Anne's. At age 40, he has a little more than half of Anne's savings. And at age 50, we can see the gap is even greater. By the time he reaches retirement at age 65, he still has a pretty large chunk of change, almost $330,000, but Anne saved more than twice as much during the same period. So what happened in retirement? Well, let's first assume that Anne and Andy are not like us. They don't have any other sources of income, and they need to rely solely on their 401ks. Anne is able to replace 80% of her salary, give herself cost of living adjustments for inflation each year, and make it till age 87 with just this one account. She's probably lying on a beach somewhere. Now, as far as Andy is concerned, well, I hope he was really nice to Anne, because he ran out of money at age 74. The point I'm trying to make here is that retirement goals may seem daunting, but they are achievable. When we know where we want to be in retirement, it becomes a lot easier to take steps to get there today. And Anne was never a super saver or an investment guru. She just started with what she could and made sure to increase her contribution over time. That's it. There's no secret other than goal setting and consistency. And if you've stopped saving or fallen off the wagon, that's okay. Use these examples as real-life motivation to get back on track. And there are lots of great resources to help you out. Log on to your personal Pentegra website and check out the Financial Resource Center for articles and calculators, Advice Plus for a virtual investment advisor, and the account projection tool to get a sense of how much your account can grow if you keep on saving. Not sure how much you're contributing? Give us a call. Pentegra's call center is available from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can reach us at 866-633-4015. That's 866-633-4015, and we're happy to help. What if you're ready to increase your contribution? If your plan offers online contribution changes, you'll see a link on your personal website called Deferral Rate/Amount. It'll be under the heading of Account Transactions. If you don't see that link, that's okay. All you need to do is just contact your HR department for a paper form. Either way, if you need help or aren't sure how to make a change, give us a call and we'll walk you through the process. We hope you found today's webinar informative. Remember, start with a goal and take action today. It's never too late or too early to save for your future.